So today in front of me I have the S23 Ultra and the S22 Ultra, which this is the new model, and this is the previous model, and we're going to see if they've improved anything on this one compared to last year. So let's get into that. And first we're going to look at design. So this one, the cameras they have a bezel, but not much of a bezel. This is on the S22, and as you can see, let's put them, they're a little bit different, which I like the way this looks better. They're exact same phone, just the sides on this phone, as you can see, they're a little bit more rounded. This is shaped just a little bit differently. But on this phone, it's really hard to tell on camera. Let me put them side by side. See, a little bit different, which I like the way this one feels way better. The bottom is pretty much the same, just looks a little different. It has an extra microphone, which we'll have to see if that improves. And exactly the same. So now we will do camera test. Here's a photo taken from the S22 Ultra, 108 megapixels, which zoom in, looks a lot of good detail here. Around the edges, it did blur the background out, which is nice, kind of. You can see around the edges, it kind of looks weird. But if we zoom in and look at the detail, there's a lot of it. It's pretty good. So, I'm going to compare it to the S23 Ultra with the 200 megapixel camera. Here's a photo taken from the S23 Ultra 200 megapixel camera, and took a photo of some flowers, and the photo is really good. You zoom in, there's a lot of detail here. You can see that piece of hair right there. You zoom out, I like the way it did it a little bit nicer than the S22, kind of. The way it blurred out the background. Not too much, but it's focused on this. I like how the flowers stand out, and they look almost 3D, and there's a lot of detail in there. See the edges, in the flower. It looks really good. Is a photo taken from the S22 Ultra with 108 megapixels, and I took of some daylilies, I think. And you zoom in, and there's a lot of detail. If you zoom in too much, it gets kind of grainy and pixelated, but there's a lot of detail there. See the leaf. I mean, really impressive camera. Especially right here, that's where that detail shows. But we'll have to compare it to the 200 megapixel camera on the S23 Ultra. We'll go ahead and do that now. The 200 megapixel photo taken on the S23 Ultra, and we'll zoom in, and I already tell, seems like there's a little bit more detail. I like the way the photo came out a little bit better from the S22 detail. This is being recorded in 1080p, so yeah, but I mean, good amount of detail. And you can see leaves. I think it looks really good. Here's a photo taken on the S22 Ultra in 108 megapixels, and it looks just like a normal photo, like it should, but when you zoom in, as you can see, there's a lot of detail. I mean, okay, decent, not a lot, but I mean, it looks pretty good, I would say. You can see the detail over here, decent amount. Birdhouse, it's pretty good. I have to compare it to the, there's a lock on there. There's a leaf, which camera did a pretty good job. Put a tree. So now we'll compare it to the S23 Ultra and the 200 megapixel camera. Here is the S23 Ultra 200 megapixel photo, and we'll zoom in. Seems like there's a little bit of more detail within the photo. Just looking at it here, it looks really good though. Zoom in on the tree. Good amount of detail. Those trees, pretty good. That roof, I mean, it's a pretty good camera. It's impressive it could pick up all this stuff, and it wasn't that bright outside. It's the overcast, so I think the photo of the camera did a really, really good job. Here is the ultra wide lens on the S22 Ultra, and it's pretty wide. I mean, that's pretty much the whole backyard. See, tree over there, over here. See this, that tree over there, which is pretty wide. The detail, not that great, but then we'll compare it to the S23 Ultra and see what happens then. Here's the S23 ultra wide lens, and it's pretty good. You can see there's the one end of the yard, and you can see the other. Almost captures the whole backyard. So the detail is all right, but it's I would say it's more wider than the S22 Ultra, which is good. Here's a photo from the S22 Ultra at 100 times zoom. This was on someone's house, a few hundred feet away, a pipe coming out of the roof, and the zoom is very good, but when you take a photo, it's very blurry. I mean, you can tell what the image kind of is, but you zoom in, it looks really bad. But it's still very impressive and something that the iPhone needs to have. So now we'll compare this to the S23 Ultra. Here's the photo on the new phone, on the S23, with 100 times zoom, which it doesn't really look any different from last year. I mean, I don't really see a difference, which doesn't really matter, but there's not much of a difference. So, yeah, it's kind of all we have to go off now. Here is the S22 Ultra selfie cam, 40 megapixels, and we got Santa Claus and really kind of freaky Santa Claus, but zoom in, good amount of detail. It picks up on the hairs, and yes, his glasses are not on. It picks up on his eyes. Good amount of detail. I mean, it's alright. I don't really use the selfie camera that much, but it looks pretty good. So we'll compare it to the S23 Ultra. Here is the S23 Ultra selfie camera, 12 megapixels, and they ditched the 40 megapixels from last year 12 megapixels, which seems like a downgrade, but it's not. And as you can see, it's a pretty good camera. The detail, it's there. It seems very similar to the 40 megapixel. I mean, I don't really see that much of a difference. I don't know. I feel like, is it hairs right there? The jacket, the little chain. I think it's a pretty good selfie camera. Here's a photo taken in complete darkness on the S22 Ultra using night mode, and when we zoom in and see the detail, I mean, it's completely dark, and might be a little bit of light, but not that much. I mean, it's completely dark in the photo. Almost completely dark. And we're looking at the stuff here. Feather. The detail, it's alright, but it's not the greatest. We will have to compare it to the S23 Ultra. We'll go ahead and do that now. So, same photo, just shot on the S23 Ultra, night mode, and completely dark, which, zoom in, I guess the detail, it might be a little bit better, but I mean, it's not beautiful, it's not crisp, but at the same time, it was almost completely dark, so it's pretty impressive what it can do. When you zoom out, it looks really good. And when you zoom in, it's really weird. But I think it's pretty good. Here's a photo of the S22 Ultra night mode. And it's pretty much completely dark except over here where the light is coming through, which the light is not that bright. But zoom in. Not that great detail. I mean, you can read, it says Rocky, Glare, Dunkin' Donuts. It's not that great detail. But we'll have to compare it to the S23 Ultra and see if it's better. Let's go ahead and do that now. Here's a photo taken on the S23 Ultra night mode, and it's already better. It's brighter, which is completely dark, and you zoom in, and there's way more detail compared to the S22 Ultra. I mean, it's not, like, perfect, but I mean, it's way better than the S22. I mean, you can just go ahead and tell, which is pretty impressive that it's almost completely dark and it looks like daytime. It's pretty impressive. So here's the video on the S22 Ultra, 4K, 60 frames per second. Testing the microphones and everything. Compare it to the S23 Ultra. See if it's identical or not. So this is a video on the S23 Ultra. This is 4K, 60 frames per second, and it's probably not going to look that much different from the S22, but we are just going to see and test out the mics and everything. And there's a little bit of wind, so that will So, this is the video. Let's see how it's going to turn out. So now we're filming in 8K on the S22 Ultra, 24 frames per second, and the dog is barking. This does not feel that usable. It feels very laggy. Yep, 30 seconds, same as the S20. Alrighty, well, see how it compares. Alright, we are shooting in 8K on the S23 Ultra, and it's at 30 frames per second. This is only going to be a 30-second video. Got to compare it to the S22 Ultra, which is only 24 frames per second. So we will have to see how that compares, which I can go ahead and say this is way much smoother and actually feels usable. Yep, time is almost up. So, see how it compares. Okay, so now for the speaker test. First, we are going to do the S22 Ultra and then the S23 Ultra. And how this works is I have a decibel meter right here, and we'll play the same song in the same place. So I'll set the phone here, and the decibel meter will be like somewhere over here, and same song, same setting, same everything, and we will see who is louder. So we can go ahead and get on with that. Alright, so here's the S22. Just show you. That's it. I'm going to take it back around. Alright, decibel meter is here, as you can see. It's working. Lay it right there. Over here, I guess we'll keep it right there for the video. So we have a speaker here and earpiece right over here. So we're going to go ahead and see, make sure this is turned up all the way. Go ahead and see how loud this is. I'm just going to tap that. As you can see, 97.1, which I think it was a little bit louder than that, which is still over 80 decibels, very loud. That was for the S22 Ultra. Now we're going to just reset it, and we're going to just take this one and get the S23 Ultra. Alright, so we have the S23 Ultra here, and I'll show you. S23. Let that get flipped around. There we go. So, same setup. Speaker here and the earpiece. It's going to both work together, and it is tuned by AKG. Both of them, the S22 and the S23. Same song, same setting. Well, pretty much. So I'm going to be quiet and we can start this. Alright, 98.9. So it is louder than the S23 Ultra. But also, this is a brand new phone. The S22 Ultra we just tested is 8 months old, and I use the speakers a lot. But they have improved the speakers on the new phone. Tell it's louder, which is pretty good. So, now I'm going to move on to the next test. Alright, so we have the S22 Ultra and the S23 Ultra. This has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, and this has the new chip, the 8 Gen 2. And we're going to see how fast they work. So we're going to open YouTube at the same time. Okay. Pretty much the same. So we're going to do the same test, but just opening up the Google thing from the home button. Well, yeah. They're fast. So now we're going to open up the Play Store, same time. Wow. So we're going to take a look at the spec sheet on the S23 and the S22 Ultra. Here it is. I'm not going to read all this out. You can pause it if you would like to look at it more. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and thank you.